Small thing. So the yeshiva wants to give a small token of appreciation to Joe and also Mayor. Just take it to your daily life. Joe probably ran away. Joe.
Smile, quick picture, smile. Joe, smile for the picture.
So glad I wore white shirt. Where's the Mayor?
Quick smile. All three of you. Aww.
Alright, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. I know it's been like 2 weeks since the event. It was great. Thank you. Sorry, so I'll tell you, it's really hard, and you can ask nothing. It's really hard to get people to come talk. At night. These are busy professionals. I can't begin to tell you how many symptoms they have, how many meetings, how many dinners, how many events, and all they want to do is be left alone. So just to show you, just tell you a small little story. There's about a dozen people in my shul that I constantly ask to come speak, and I try to tell them, okay, Ruvain Wolf and this guy and that guy, and they're like, great, so get them to come again if they had a good time, and Mordechai told me last week, he's like, I've been saying no to you for a year and a half, but something happened personally, and I said to myself, okay, the next person who asks me, I'm going to say yes. And I'm like, and this is why I constantly ask people. This is why I tell you, don't be afraid to ask people again and again for money, because you never know when something happens. They say, oh, the next guy that asks me, I'm going to give. But it just says a lot about somebody when they're constantly one way, and then something will happen, and in a split second, they can change their mind because they, for whatever reason, it's the right thing to do, or that's what they wanted to do. But with no further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend Mordechai Chopp.
First of all, walking here tonight, I was blown away and impressed. I love that punch bowl. It's very impressive. My name is Mordechai Chopp. I own a company called Chopp Holdings. We built in the last 11 years 9 projects in Lakewood. Tower 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. RIC Shopping Plaza, 4th and Monmouth. And we're currently building now another 5 projects, building 141 units in Tom's River. Starting next week, a building called Spire 1, Spire 2, and Spire Retail. And we're finishing opening July 15th, Tower 5. So that is what we're doing. Now, I wanted to steal a little bit of history. I probably started 15 businesses. All failed. I didn't go into real estate till I was 31. I'm currently 42. In the last 11 years, we got started. One of my most embarrassing mistakes was I opened a store called Purple Jewelry, exited 100 on the Parkway. So basically selling sterling silver jewelry. Did my last $120,000. Hurricane Sandy hit that year, and I ended up shutting the store down after 7 months. So real quick, fail fast and move on even quicker. Okay? It's a famous word from a sucker friend. You go to Shemayim, they ask you a couple of questions. First question you get to Shemayim, they ask you is, Nasa Nasata B'munah. You do business honestly. Second question is, Kvitim Mizmanai. Baruch Hashem, everybody's saying you're learning every day, Kvitim. Third question asks you, Isaac Peru. Fourth question is, piece of Yeshua, wait for Mashiach to come. The first question you ask someone after they live, were you honest in business? Doesn't even make sense. Honest in business is not even a mitzvah. Maybe Kedoshim to you, maybe I checked it. What mitzvah is there that the first question you ask after someone lives the whole 120 years, the whole entire life, you ask them, were they honest in business? I mean, Shabbos, Taz B'Shpacha, Lashon Hara, 1,000 things I can think of. What's the question? Socha Grand answer, Lasat B'Emunah means, the question is, do you have Emunah? If you want to tell how someone has Emunah, is how they act with money. Everybody says they get Shemes for 4 days and do whatever they want to do. The second you put money in their pocket, or trying to get money, that is Emunah. You go to work every single day. I mean, I think everybody here goes to work, or But if you're going to work, bottom line is, do it honestly. That judges your character. That's the first question the Shemayim is, were you honest in business? Actually, just on the way here, I was actually in Connecticut today, my property. I drove back here today. I got back like really late. I just wrote down quick 5 things about business that I wish someone told me a while back. For you guys. As we discussed earlier, don't be scared to fail, which means if you go around asking people ideas, the answer you're going to get is always what the person you're asking, what they are. If someone's an employee their whole entire life, and you ask them an answer, they're going to give you an employee answer. Never leave on. Stay where you are. Never move on, because the employee, his whole entire life, never took a risk. If you want to do something, go ask someone who's successful, who took a risk. And I guarantee the answer will always be, go for it. Be smart, plan it out, but go for it. So the question really is basically, when you're going to go ask people answers, ask people that were successful, and they'll give you the guidance and push you to do it. Next thing is, start from the bottom. No shortcuts. What happens is everybody has a guy in their share, in their class, gets married, who did something and made like $1 million. And now what happens is everybody is trying to catch up to that guy. That guy who made $1 million will be broke in 3 or 4 years. Guaranteed. Because what happens is the get-rich schemes do not work. Here's the problem. When you're 24 or 25 and you get involved with get-rich schemes, you only need $30,000 when you're single to live. And basically, what happens, instead of planting your seeds and growing hard and working and growing, what happens is, you basically missed out that whole opportunity of planting your seed. Because now when you're 30, now what happens, your first year, you only $30,000, you blow that money. Next year, $45,000. With time, you can start, when you actually realize that get-rich schemes don't work. You're 31 or 32 years old, and now you're getting a $50,000 job to start out. Start when you're young, learn a business. There's non-stop opportunities. Lakewood is the land of opportunities. Literally, when I drive around Lakewood, I still see today, after many years of business over here, Lakewood is the land of opportunity. Everything is needed. There's no such thing as we have too many of anything right now. There's the way Lakewood's growing, just real quick numbers. Okay, I'm a huge statistic person when it comes to numbers. Lakewood has 8,000 babies born this past year. Lakewood MSA, 8,000 babies born this past year. The 2010 census had 95,000. Lakewood, that was 142,000. That was 2020. Probably not close to 160. The Lakewood, as the growth is going on around you, everything is needed. There's endless opportunities everywhere around you. Literally, if you ever had in America was the Golden Medina, Lakewood is the golden town. Still today. There's no shortage of every opportunity out there. The question is, I want to employ everybody. Go out, find an opportunity, look around, open your eyes. There's opportunities for everybody still today. And grab it, and move quickly. Because we need people to be, everybody here is, I'm very impressed, taking their time out at night, coming here, sitting and learning, beautiful chavy, beautiful crowd. But we need Mordechai Chopp to go out and support everybody. I mean, it's up to us to help all the yeshiva light. They're counting on us to go ahead and step up and get to work. On that note, I'll put any questions.
It's too quiet.
How'd you get into real estate?
Mazel by accident. If you want to see a picture of Mazel, it's my face.
You started with property manager? What did you start?
I took over a building that was halfway under construction. There was a fight going on in the building. I took over the building halfway, not knowing anything. I finished the building, leased it up. For around 3 to 4 years, I was a handyman in the building. I shoveled the snow. Many of my old employees remember that. I shoveled the snow. I can fix anything in the building. So pretty much I know from the ground up. Then I moved on to my first project, which was America Tower. First building I built was Fourth and Monmouth, then America Tower, and that was what was that long? 2015, 2014.
I think you're saying 5 points.
Oh, it could be I missed 10 points. I think the first point I mentioned earlier was basically failed quickly. Right? Also, again, honesty pays. If you shouldn't have done business, goes a very, very long way. Which means people want to do work for you. When we put out bids for construction, everybody knows they're getting paid. So the fact that everyone knows they're getting paid, they will do anything they can to win your bid. Paying your bills, doing the business correctly, may be a little bit harder in the earlier stages, but as you grow, do it right, and it pays off. That was honesty and integrity. That was that point down.
We were having the show in Yeshiva, one of the buildings?
Yes, in Tower 5 right now, we're opening a 120-seat show. Basically, what happens is people want in the morning, people want to travel, want to travel and hit the traffic. So we have a shul, a magnificent shul. It's called Torah Bavodah. Very, it's called. Right. We have a 120-seat shul. We're having shabbos every morning, and I hired Rabbi Pluchak to give our rice issue every morning. And the plan is after that to have open up a kollel shop.
What's a mistake that you like what's the biggest mistake you would warn against before when someone's starting out? Like you said, make mistakes quick.
If the second you stop being humble, then you think you know everything. That's when you make the most mistakes. Always keep keep fact checking, keep making sure that you know what you're doing. You keep basically humility is where it is. I always tell people the job of a CEO, number one job of a CEO is not to give answers. Number one job of a CEO is to ask as many questions as you can. How can we do this better, faster, cheaper, quicker? This doesn't look right. How do we fix this? What else can we do to make the company better? When you ask all those questions, everybody around you will give you their input. You take their input, and so basically, the number one job of a CEO is to ask questions. If you don't have humility, you think you know everything, you'll never ask any questions. I can't hear you. What?
How do you avoid bad actors in business? People don't pay, or see that you.
So I'm Baruch Hashem blessed. I literally, to me, that's a great point. To me, before you do anything, find out the character of the person. Which means if you're going to get a partnership, it means you're stuck for life with this person. Make sure that guy is a high quality person. Choose the people around you, especially when you're starting off, who you want to do business with. Because the people you pick up business with, really, when you have a good wife, half your life is already over for you. Now it's up to you to do your part. If you have a good partner in business and employees, choose very wisely the people you do business with. Research. Don't just jump the first guy, by the hoist table and say, let's do business together. Research the guy and make sure the guy's a high quality person, and you'll avoid so many pitfalls and problems.
What specific qualities would you look for in a partner? What specific qualities would be the most important to
To me, one of my pet peeves is coming on time. It means very simple. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything in your life. I talk fast, walk fast, and do everything fast. Drive way too fast. Right? So basically, the way you do something is the way you do everything. If a guy comes to me, if I give a guy an interview,
Did everybody hear that? Ever come on time?
if I
Conference included?
really, like the famous coach Tom Coughlin, if you know the New York Giants coach, his rule is if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. Because bottom line is, if I give someone an interview, for example, right, and that guy does not ring the door about 5 minutes early, he's not smart enough to realize that if I may get lost, not be there on time, which means that guy is already calculating, everything that could possibly go wrong in the situation. That's the guy I want to hire. I don't want to hire a guy who comes late. The second you come late to a meeting, usually what happens is, I'll interview you because I have to be nice to you, but you're already fired before you start. To me, coming on time means you're organized, you're diligent, you're thought out. That to me is one of the most important things you find out. Now, really, if you meet someone for the first time and he shows up late, don't do business with him. It means your whole life you're waiting for him.
How do you balance the responsibility of owning your company and your family?
Well, very easy. The whole point of working is for family. What's the point, right? It's not about how. What do you need after a while? What's the whole point? That's easy. I'm home every day at 6 o'clock, 6:30 latest, right?
How do you handle firing people?
I have luckily I happen to be. I have a very small group. I only have in my personal office. I only have 5 people. In Lakewood, we have a total of 13 people. I actually hired from guys very young. I look at it differently. I don't hire employees. I try to hire partners. I try to have people that join the company and really stay with the company. Just everybody who works for somebody over here. If you're an employee, right, and you think you work for the boss, you're mistaken. You don't work for your boss. You work for yourself. Everybody works for themselves. Now, you can come in and just loaf your job and get your paycheck, or you work for yourself. That means you come early, you stay late, you get involved with everything. Now, one of 2 things happen. Either you come worth so much money to the company, and you actually get hired, become a partner, or secondly, you have so much more knowledge eventually you open yourself. Which means you don't work for, you never work for any person who thinks he works for himself. So which means if I hire somebody and I realize the guy thinks it's just a job, he's working just for himself, but working for the company and not for himself, which means not going the extra mile, you're not the place to us. But if a person who realizes that he's working for himself every single day, it's very simple. You go to work in the morning and you go to work in the morning and you think you're working for yourself, you crush it every single day. Second, you work for me, and I understand. So you work for someone else, you work for yourself.
So if you come into a company and they hand you a non-compete,
There's nothing to do with each other. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. I don't know. It's real estate. There's no, and in my business, there's no such thing as competition. So like, it's not. I don't feel like that. I know no non-compete. I don't know much about that. I can't answer that question. What? That was actually very hard. It's very hard. You gotta work through it. The first deal you're going to do is always next to impossible. Because the hurdles against you in the first deal, the first $1 million is impossible to make. You know why? We have to make 1,000,000%. Our 1,000,000% is impossible to make. The second $1 million is only 100%. That's pretty easy to make. And obviously the third $1 million is 50% of what you have. So the first $1 million is next to impossible to make. So the answer is really the first deal you're going to do. You're not going to do the greatest deal in the world. Which means if you do the first deal and you're greedy, and you need whatever it is, first deal is basically just to get your feet going and get going. Once you get your first deal done, it just goes.
you have advice for people that do sales?
I know nothing about sales. Hustle. Right? Hustle.
If you're not making 100 phone calls a day,
What?
it's not worth it.
What was your question? Hustle.
When you say kill quickly, what is that? Like 8 hours a day?
It's impossible to characterize. But what I'm saying is, I guess, that some people have an idea, and their conviction is so convicted they're right, when everything else is, they're scared to admit they're, basically, I said before about, to me, someone who's scared to admit they're wrong. Humility, which means it's wrong. Face the facts, it's wrong, it's embarrassing. I shut down a store that I spoke to, I went around telling the whole world I'm opening the store, and I have a chain of stores. Shut it down. Yes, but guess what? I moved on. And I look back and I honestly think that was one of the best things that ever happened in my life, is basically fail at something. You're not scared of failure. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen if you fail? Guess what? No one even cares, no one remembers after 2 weeks. So like, move on. Yeah, it didn't work. And if you, as long as you can move on quickly, it's basically, what are you doing to answer the question, to say that how quickly it is. But usually if it's wrong, your stomach knows it's wrong, you're just fighting yourself. Right? Anything else? What?
From that first silver story.
Can't even.
That from that?
What?
That first sterling silver story, right? Is that from that or?
No.
Yeah, I got you.
Basically my last dollar I had. Yes, it was pretty much almost dead. Yes. What? I actually, it's funny you asked. It's funny you asked.
What's the answer?
I'll answer. It's funny you asked that. I already, on the way, and I already paid a lot of money, embarrassing amount of money for it. So it's being done as we speak. Yeah, but last night offline. Literally offline.
What had to do with the development that you're doing?
What else, guys?
How did you or how does somebody starting out raise capital for either a building or any
So really, it's really about what you're willing to give away. Which means, for example, a typical real estate deal is 70-30, right? 70-30, 70-25. Syndication fee. Basically, you're going to try. You're going to find your first deal. When you find your first deal, you're going to say, okay, you're going to start trying to raise money for it. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you: why in the world should I give you money? What do you know about anything? You're like, oh, I worked for this guy for 2 years. I know management. Da da da. So what happens is the first deal, you're probably end up being 95-5 or 90-10, which means you're going to give away from your promote to get the first deal done. You know why? 5% or 10% of a nice asset is a lot more than 100% of nothing. So which means you'll give away from your promote to get the first deal done. Whatever it takes to get the first deal done, you'll do. And that's the goal. The goal is to work the first deal as much as to get done. Once you get that money, which means the guy who gives you your first capital should get an amazing deal because he's taking a crazy risk. Yeah? Anything else?
You said you started 15 businesses and you saw success after you obviously buy real estate. So would you recommend just straight away getting into real estate for people?
I honestly, I thought I was very smart. I thought I was trying to reinvent the wheel in many ways. So I thought that I was going to do like some reinvent the things possible. I'm really trying to come up with something now. And then I realized that why should I reinvent the wheel? I just fix the wheel better management. That, find out a need that can be done. So the answer is, I was probably not being humble at that point, right?
Did you want to create something? Like you said, you want to reinvent the wheel, at some point. Did you want to just create something new, or you wanted to just disrupt the whole market?
No, just one building at a time by accident, which means it was never. I finished one building and I said I was building another building, and then it wasn't like it was no grand master plan at all. It was just like, okay, let's keep doing deals. It was never like we had this master plan, and no, we just happened to be. It was basically happenstance.
Right. One deal at a time.
Yeah, if you're gonna take on this try to change. I'm over time this.
That's good. Everyone's enjoying it.
If you're gonna try to change the world and have this massive plan, it's like planning going to the gym and working out for 78, hours straight. But if you go to the gym, you want to work a little bit, which means focus on today, your first deal, your first project, wrap it up, and then move on to the next. And that's what we did one whatever.
You built the towers, you said?
Yeah.
So if you named the tower one, you probably had something to do with fishing.
I actually had. It's a whole story to that, but actually, by the way, purely. Actually, it's a good point, but totally not the case. What happened was I was building 2 buildings. I started one building, and I had plans for another building. Because it's a whole story in itself. Each building is actually a story by itself. How it actually happened. So I had 2 plans in front of me. And I was like, okay, I'm getting confused here. Which building? Let's call this tower 1. Let's call this tower 2. There was no again great scheme of okay, we're gonna build. No. Again, it's 100% happenstance. No master plan. No.
3 and 4, just
What's your biggest regret?
Biggest regret? No regrets. There's no such thing as mistakes. You can't make a mistake in this world. It's supposed to happen. So, no regrets.
How would you say you would know it's time when to expand a business or bring it to the next level?
Skip.
Every business is different. It's impossible to know. But you'll know. When it's time for when you're seeing success, things are working out properly, you have more capacity. You'll know when it's time to scale. It's not something it's impossible to quantitate.
So you've got feeling yourself.
Yes, you'll know.
What do you recommend, commercial or residential? I know it's a broad question, but would you recommend commercial or residential?
Well, I'm going to recommend office. Yeah, I'm really. I mean, again, how I got to me, I think to me, if I was doing, I would definitely recommend residential. I mean, Residential, everybody needs a place to live at all times. You know, you're not less fickle. Everybody needs a place to live, especially around here. You need a place to live. Definitely residential, but residential, you know, it's definitely a little harder to break into. But residential, I think, is definitely. We probably where if I was starting again, that's where it probably would have went.
So why's the first break?
It's basically much more expensive. You know, every cap rates are based off how risk. So office buildings right now are very risky, so it's much cheaper to buy an office building. Multifamily is much more less risky, so you're paying a lot more money for something. Paying a lot more money, you have a lot less. Paying a lot more money, you have a lot less. What's it called? Profits. Okay?
What do you think is the future of office outside of Lakewood?
I think what happens is I think the latest I saw they're tearing down right now, just in North Jersey alone, 33 million square feet. They're turning that. It's all the older stuff is getting turned into warehouse and multifamily. So eventually, what happens is, and nobody's building office except Lakewood right now. So eventually, I think what happens.